Aloha and welcome back to Live at the Legislature for our weekly Senate segment. I'm the Senate Communications Director, Jesse Broder Van Dyke, and we're coming to you live from the Senate chamber this week. Our guest this week is Senator Brian Taniguchi. Thanks so much for getting up early to be here with us. Senator Taniguchi represents Manoa, Makiki, Punchbowl, and Papakolea, and he's the chairman of the Labor, Culture, and Arts Committee. In the last segment, our House counterparts were talking a little bit about the joint legislative package that was introduced this year. It's the first time since 2004 that the Senate, House, and Governor have all come together before the session. Can you tell us a little bit about the package?
It's an exciting concept, I think. Back when I was, the Ways and Means Chair in 2004, I worked with then House Finance Chair, Doi Takamine, to kind of work on a package. So I know how that kind of thing really helps to build some momentum for the issues that we want to face and deal with.
And one of the proposals this year is to raise the minimum wage, and that's going to be coming before your committee. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. We've been trying to deal with the issue of minimum wage for the last probably couple of years. Last year we were pretty close, but I think there's still some issues that we hadn't been able to overcome. With this joint package, I think it deals in part with the minimum wage, but it also addresses probably a broader spectrum of people. There are people that are affected by the minimum wage. A lot of companies currently pay more than the minimum wage. So I think this combined package of raising the minimum wage as well as some tax credits for the working poor is really going to hit a larger group of people. And that's, I think, what we wanted to do.
And we can see on the screen right now the proposal to bring it up to $13 an hour in 2024. How does that differ from what you were working on last year?
Well, it's a little lower than we would have done last year. I think because we had it as a kind of a standalone issue. We're trying to address the DBED study that said that it'd take probably something like $17 an hour for a family to for a person to live in Hawaii and survive. And so we're trying to hit that mark at some point. But we believe that with this package, I think it'll help to alleviate a lot of those issues. And I like the fact that we can kind of work together and be sure that we have something at the end, unlike last year where we did not.
And part of the package of bills is to give early education to 3- and 4-year-olds? Right.
And so it's early education for people to provide more access to early education, and also housing to provide more, rental and housing for people to get into. And that way, I think a combination of things that really is going to make this a powerful package.
So even though the minimum wage is less than what's been discussed in the past with tax incentives, housing, and child care, you're going to help people make ends meet?
Well, a lot of it is when we do these kinds of packages, there's a certain amount of compromise that we have to do, and so I think that's what we came up with, and I think we've all agreed to try to support this and get this package moving.
And where do the bills stand now, and how can people support the minimum wage increase if that's something they're interested in?
The House heard the bill last week, and so they are probably in better position. I think what the Senate will probably do is wait for the House bill to come over and then have our hearing on that bill at that time.
Well, stay tuned. And you're also chairman of the Subcommittee on Labor, Culture, and the Arts, and one of the things you've been working on is the archives, which are currently stored on the Iolani Palace grounds, but they're not available for public display.
Yeah, we've, last year was the 50th anniversary of the State Capitol building, and so we worked with the State Archives on that. We found out that they had a lot of resources and things that the public doesn't really have access to, and that the archives can't present to the public. And so we worked on a resolution last year to try to see if we can have a master plan where we can have a better, so the public can have better access to the materials that the archives has. And so this year we're trying to support a bill that might provide the archives with a planning kind of thing so that they can kind of design a building that would help them do that.
Well, one of my favorite events of the year is Art at the Capitol, which is coming up this year on April 3rd, which is the first Friday, from 5 to 7 p.m. Tell us about what you have planned this year.
Well, this year we're still in the planning stages, actually. This is going to be our, I think, 12th year, I think, and so we've done we've highlighted a lot of the art features at the Capitol, and so this year I think we're looking at maybe the portraits in the governor's office, and so we'll kind of focus on that. And another real interesting part is that we're going to probably have the staff people at the Capitol do portraits of their bosses. That's the plan right now.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, it is kind of scary. But it's going to be fun, I think. So,
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to developing my artistic talent.
Yeah. So it's going to be the first Friday in April. So
okay.
It starts about 4:30ish, and it'll go into the evening, and so people can come to the Capitol and look at all the artwork, public art that's in the state Capitol.
Yeah. So there's some priceless works of art here that are on display, loaned from the State Art Museum to the legislators, and normally only people who meet with them get to see them, but on this one day, their doors are open for everyone to take a look.
Right. So what is it, 12, 13 years ago, somebody confronted me and said, hey, you have all this art in the state capitol and nobody gets to see it, only the lobbyists and people who work there. And so we decided to have this art at the Capitol to kind of address that, and at least one night a year have the public come in and be able to look at all the art in the building.
That's great. So that's going to be, once again, April 3rd from 5 to 7 p.m.
Right.
We have a little bit more time, so let's go back to the serious subjects and talk more about the joint package. We've been focusing on the Aloha United Way's Alice report that shows, like you mentioned, people really need at least $17 an hour to make ends meet, but we're trying to make up the gap with housing, affordable housing, and early education. And tell us a little bit more about the package.
Well, the early education part of it is important because apparently for a lot of working families, young families especially, that child care cost is is very, very high.
Right.
It's a large percentage of their they have to pay for the income, and so we have about half of our 3 and 4 year olds who aren't able to go to preschool and are not therefore not ready for school, right, and or not as ready as they could be for school, and so that's, I think, a big chunk that people don't really see the cost in there, but there's I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of the working families that this cost will be taken care of over the next couple of years.
So it'll both help parents make a living, and it'll help the students get a head start in their future. Right. Well, great. Thank you so much for getting up early to join us today.
My pleasure. Yeah,
it goes by pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
But we'll be back here every Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning, and you can catch a replay of the show Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Alelo. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Aloha.